The Big 12 is holding steady for now, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. Today, we have had a whirlwind of emotions, and perhaps a good time is had around 8 p.m. Tulsa time. So, news reported first by Sooner Scoop and Pete Thamel over at Yahoo Sports that the Big 12 is moving forward with its plan to play football this fall to applause from all of you. This means that we expect a schedule to drop sooner rather than later. Right now, we expect the SEC to start its schedule on September 26th. I would imagine that the Big 12 would start its schedule right around that time as well. Maybe September 19th, as Oklahoma would really like to get that Missouri State game in as well. But maybe September 12th, because you want to give yourself the 2 weeks before you start your conference season in case you pop a positive coronavirus test. And that is really what we're talking about. If you have enough money to test more than once a week, it feels like you might be able to pull this off, though you're going to do it with some legal liabilities and some medical professionals going, I don't know about this. So as I understand it, there are 4 main criteria here that you have to work with. One is, how does your local state and municipality deal with the virus, and how good are you at containing it? Oklahoma hasn't been great, and neither has Texas. As a matter of fact, Greg Abbott came out today after a visit to Beaumont to say, look, we're not anywhere close to being able to reopen and relax some of the measures that he's had to take since July, when they had a spike in coronavirus cases where they were seeing upwards of 10,000 a day. He wants to see the number of cases go down below 10% to 5%, or to 10%, but the WHO has said 5%. We'll see if they get to 10%. And we're looking at about 45 days between now and September 26th, so about 6 weeks. One of the other reasons is this news about myocarditis, right, which is an inflammation of the heart, which means that your heart is in a bad way. And last time I checked, you need your heart to play football. You need your heart to breathe. You need your heart to function. And nobody wants to be on the hook for that. Then there's the money aspect of this, right? Because we're talking about at the place like Oklahoma, where they bring in close to $100 million or more, right, in football revenue alone from television and whatnot, to say nothing of Oklahoma is routinely one of the top 10 revenue generators in the entire country, along with the likes of Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Texas. Texas brings in over $200 million, like A&M, from football revenue alone. They want to play because you're talking about the bulk of the money they make coming from their football programs. So they're going to try to do this, and they're going to try to get this money any way that they can. Also means that we're still trying to figure out what the B1G is going to do with programs that want to play. Gene Smith has said we're not playing in the fall for Ohio State. Purdue has said they're not playing in the fall. Nebraska said we want to find a game. Iowa wants to find games. We'll see how that goes. This is also a win for the SEC and the ACC, who were really looking to the Big 12 to help them bolster this group of 3, these Power 3 schools or Power 3 conferences that wanted to play football. Now, at Oklahoma, this is going to get hairy really quick, and we're going to figure out how this is going to go really quickly, because the University of Oklahoma started moving in their students today, Tuesday. Now, they're going to move them in waves, and many of you with kids that are starting their freshman years at OU are finding out just how much it sucks to send your kid off to school, and it's going to suck even more today because you're not allowed to help them move in. You have to drop them off and leave as part of the virus protections for having students on campus. The other part of this that I find to be interesting is that there are students that have chosen not to return to campus, and some classes, more classes than perhaps are usual, are going to be held online at places like the University of Texas, with fewer people at the campuses. And we're talking about maybe 75% of classes going offline in some cases. That's the other reason why there are people that are going, hey, we could probably pull off football if we do this thing right. Remains to be seen. I am getting around to thinking about this from the standpoint of the schools and the standpoint of the students. And in this market, if it's what you want to do and you can try to make it work, fine. I think the liabilities here are the liabilities. I also think it's unsafe, but again, that's just me. We're going to continue to talk about college football as they're going to continue to play college football. It's a paradox for me, and I'm probably gonna talk about this in every single segment as we do, so that folks know where I am, but also you know where you are, and we can disagree and still talk about college football. The other part about this that I find interesting is that imagine that you are one of these schools that is not allowed to play football this year. I mean, because that's what the Big Ten is essentially doing: Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, Minnesota, Purdue, Wisconsin, and the like. Now imagine that you have to watch OU and Texas and Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Florida and Clemson and Florida State all play football while you don't. That's bad enough. What's even worse is try recruiting during that period, because I hadn't thought about this, and this is really where I kind of change how I feel about this recruiting thing, because on the one hand, I'm right in thinking that the players know that they're not going to play this year that are in high school, right? On the other hand, if Oklahoma got to host visitors, or Texas got to host visitors, or Alabama got to host visitors, and let's say that Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State get to host visitors, because apparently it's safe enough for these kids to practice 20 hours a week, but not so safe that they can't play games. All right, that in and of itself, you're going to have a hard time selling a kid on coming to visit for a lively practice in shells when OU Texas is on, when Alabama's playing Georgia, when Clemson and Florida State play, when North Carolina plays Clemson, when Notre Dame and Clemson play. It's just going to be a really rough look. And if you are in the clout chasing game, and that's what recruiting is really about, being in the clout chasing game, this is going to be hard for you to handle. And we've already expected a bunch of decommitments to happen because of all the commitments that took place during quarantine. I think the only thing that would be fair is to say that nobody gets to take any visits and everybody has to stay home. But then again, as you have teams that are going to be preparing to play football, those coaches aren't going to be necessarily available to recruit from phones and from Zoom, and they're going to have to point to what they're doing on the field as they're recruiting. And I don't think that's fair as well. Whereas the likes of Ryan Day and James Franklin and Jim Harbaugh would be like, at least y'all get to play football. I think that's fair. So how they continue to try to chart that course is going to be interesting, because I'm looking around going, Tristan Lay has Clemson, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma all on his list. That means that list probably gets trimmed. Now, he's been considered an LSU lean for some time, but this certainly does not help you if you are Ohio State. And with Tumise Adeleye announcing that he is reopening his recruitment, that's already one high-value 4-star that you've lost. I mean, that's a top 30 recruit. He's borderline 5-star, right? So as we continue to walk this out, it's going to be wild and interesting. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.